Hey, this is Oteil. If you're liking what you're hearing, head on over to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get your bus pass for an extra episode every week.
Welcome back to another episode of Comes a Time. That's Oteil.
And that's Mike. We had a good one this time. A native son of one of our most favorite, if not most, it is most for me, I know for sure, of New Orleans, Mr. Ivan Neville. And, you know, what can you say? He's just a real, if you want to get a taste of New Orleans, this is a great way to do it. If you haven't been, after this, you'll probably want to go.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. If the Weedy episode didn't do it, this one sure will, for sure. It's we're touching on a lot of the similar, like the themes, you know, just family, like music in the family, New Orleans, and the melting pot that it is, and it's just how influential that city's just. I mean, I really think we should just go and do like a week of Comes a Time just live, like just wear GoPros on our head and just walk around and live stream New Orleans. You know,
you're so right, man. I want to go when I do not have to play, and do what you're talking about, but then call my friends down there and be like, hey, we're coming in, and you know, just like do the food, do the whole nine, man. Like really, it's so great.
I'll start packing, bro. You let me know. I love that place so much. But
that was
you guys
Nigel's first trip, man. We took him down there and he was, I think he was 4 months old. How old was Nigel? And his first band that he saw was Nth Power.
Oh, wow.
Right there on the street, I think by the Maple Leaf. And man, it was, yeah, he got a taste of the real thing. I know whatever it was, it imprinted on him very young. It'll come out later, you know. It was a magic trip, man.
Wow, it's a magic place, and this was an unbelievable conversation. This was like, again, you know, just it's like a combination history lesson and music lesson, and just, I mean, the vulnerability, and just thank you so much, Ivan, for everything, and this was a really beautiful chat with a great guy. So hope you guys love it as much as we did, and check us out on Patreon, guys. We got a bunch of amazing content over there. Patreon.com/comesatimepod. Oteil.com for all things Oteil. I got MikeFinoia.com for upcoming shows coming to your area, and thank you guys so much for listening. We'll check you out soon.
It looks like you're at home. Are you at home?
I'm at home, yeah.
It's got that New Orleans feel behind you.
Yeah, right. It got it's my little, the sunroom, lots of pictures and stuff in here.
How's everything down in New Orleans right around now? Good?
It's good right now, man. We had some weird stuff the other day. There was like some tornadoes nearby, which is not our thing, you know. We the hurricane region, you know, and we used to that, but the tornadoes is a different kind of stuff.
Good Lord.
It seems like everything now is just kind of like a roll of the dice, right?
Yeah.
Does it feel like things are starting to come back to life around New Orleans? I know it kind of never stops, but you know what I mean, like coming out of the pandemic.
Things are getting a little normal. Yeah, from, I guess, you know. Nice. It's funny. What's funny is I got COVID again recently.
It was at Love Rocks again, right?
Oh!
Same place as first time, right?
Wow.
Oh no!
But now you really went down hard.
I had a hard one that first time, and this one was mild in comparison. So,
oh no!
That's cool. Yeah.
But I bet that was still probably a little number on your mind after the first one.
No, it's definitely a hard hit mentally, you know, and then you just feel like this brain fog and just a little like a veil. It's like you're wearing a veil or a screen door over your face or something. And that's kind of how I felt this last time, you know, on top of having some cold symptoms, a slight, some nasally stuff, cough, and then you test positive for this crap, and then I guess your mind kind of goes a little bit. But I missed one gig. I missed the gig, but the guys were able to go and do the gig. Cool. Nigel went and filled in.
Right.
They were able to pull the gig off, so that was good.
Cool.
Kind of seems like that's the mantra these days, is kind of just all hands on deck, like whoever's available will pull it together, go to the bullpen, and everyone's pulling for everybody. It doesn't matter whether it's, Mayor at the Garden and Questlove sits in, or it doesn't matter. Everybody's kind of, how can we help? How can we make the show go on, know?
Get it done.
I'm glad you're feeling better, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not that long ago, right?
Well, yeah, it was literally 10 days ago.
2 weekends ago, yeah.
9-10 days ago when I tested positive. So, I was in New York on the 10th of March. Yeah. And then that weekend, that Sunday, I started feeling a little rough. And I took, wanted to check it out, took a test, and Tuesday I tested positive. So I'm like, okay, here we go.
Well, I'll tell you, when you got that guy on your shirt, it's almost kind of like wearing Superman's cape, nothing can hurt you when Keith Richards is on your...
He don't get none of that crap, That's funny. Yeah, that's crazy.
His body would probably laugh at COVID.
Right? Oh, my God.
Really?
But that was fun, though. I got to play with him, though, for that. So that was a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
Is that the first time you've seen him in a long time?
I've seen him, over a few years ago. Obviously, the last time I saw him was in 2019 when Dumpster Funk opened up for the Stones at the Superdome. Yeah. That was the last time I saw him.
Man.
And, I talked to him a few times over the last couple of years, but that's the first time that band, that group of guys, and Charlie Drayton was in that band, but he was out. He was playing with Dylan.
Yeah.
During that weekend, but Waddy, Steve, Keith, and myself, and playing the particular song, we played a Winos, a Keith Richards tune, and a couple of Stones songs. We hadn't done that in a long time, like 30 years. We hadn't done that since 92. Wow. 92.
Wow.
That now, Waddy, Steve Jordan, myself, and Keith did play together in 2015, maybe, something like that, at the Apollo for something. It was to do with the Jazz Foundation, and it was a tribute to Mary Clayton. Mary Clayton, one of the ladies that was an amazing singer. What was this? They had a documentary called 100 Feet from Stardom. It was about the unsung backup singers. And she's the one who sang on Gimme Shelter.
Right.
Oh, I remember her. She was a character too, man.
Mary
she was
Clayton,
super cool.
Yeah, so we were doing a tribute to her. She had gotten in an accident or something, and that was the last time we played. Waddy, myself, Steve Jordan, and Keith, we played Gimme Shelter at this thing at the Apollo. So, that was the last time that we had gotten together and played. But this time, when we played at Love Rocks, it was billed as Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos.
Yeah.
So there was some excitement just because of that. And that band is like this sick. It's like I don't, it's like kind of the Stones thing, kind of, but with a harder groove. Some crazy, hungry dudes. And Steve he described it to me. Well, I had never thought of it like this. He said the difference probably is when Keith's playing with the Stones, he's the fire. So they're all feeding off of him. Yeah. But when he's playing with the Winos, we light a fire up under his ass. And
cool.
We're like driving it with him, So it's a cool thing, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I really want to hear that, man.
Yeah, it's out there. You got to go. I'll send. You know what? I'll send you the link on
Dude,
the YouTube link. It's crushing.
I'm sure.
It's crushing, and Keith's like smiling and just looking so comfortable and just like a little like like many years younger.
Yeah.
Like oh shit, yeah.
That's a hell of a lineup, man. Jeez.
It really is.
You know.
It's so amazing when you see interviews with him too, when you can actually take a look at his hands.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right.
His fingers are just like,
He's got
it's
some knuckles that are like look like some
it looks like he's been a bare knuckle boxer his whole life, not a guitar player.
Yeah.
Well, that's partially got to be a little arthritis too, right?
I'm sure, yeah, right.
Because this knuckle, it's that.
Yeah. I feel like at rest, his hand was probably just in like a, A minor or something. Like it just sits in a chord.
Part A minor, part cigarette.
Part cigarette.
You know what? I've been feeling some little stuff up in here recently, like there on my right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been using this my cousin's husband. Taku, he's a percussion player.
I think
Plays
so.
with a bunch of folks. He's played with Fleetwood Mac and with a bunch of people. He hit me to this tape. This tape, it's for drummers mostly, but it's got eucalyptus. It's like soaked in eucalyptus.
Cool.
And it's very good for any kind of arthritic, pain or whatever on the joints and especially on the hands.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have it in your family? It's in my family, so I haven't
the
gotten
arthritis?
it yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I never heard anybody had it. Really.
Actually, I do have it. It's in my back, though.
Oh,
it's not in my hands.
All right.
Thank God.
Well, Ivan, it's interesting you say that, like, you didn't hear about it. Because, like, we recently had a professional wrestler on the podcast, and he was talking about how he was one of the first guys to, like really taking care of yourself, like, into the profession. Like he would get a chiropractic adjustment, he would get a massage, he would sit in the ice bath and stuff like that. Like, it's got to be the same with music too, where it's like generations of folks probably didn't really think about taking care of themselves much after, right?
No sleep,
right.
no good food.
Yeah.
No water.
Add tons of alcohol and whatever else.
I mean, if we would have known, like with the Faces tune, Ooh La La. I wish I knew what I knew now.
When I was younger.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like those early years of playing and, I'm going to play music so I can sleep all day. I can stay up all night. I could do all of that stuff and no.
Yeah.
Be careful what you want.
Yeah, if you know you're gonna live this long, you take better care of yourself,
Imagine bringing up eucalyptus tape 20, 30 years ago. They would have been like, what's this guy talking about? What's that, a new strain of weed?
Yeah, right.
Eucalyptus tape?
Yeah, so much of you feel when you start getting older, like all your friends, your conversations are about your ailments. Yeah. We're there, But man, tell me, if I want to go back a little bit just for a second to Dumpster Funk at the Superdome. Is that the first time you guys played there?
In that context, absolutely. Yes, I think we've not for opening up for a show like that. Yes, that was the first time Dumpster played in the Superdome.
I mean, I'm just thinking, talk about hometown love.
Well,
I can't imagine if one of my bands played the Capitol Center in Washington, D.C. I couldn't conceive of it.
You know what's funny about that is, and this is some trivial, just a little. So I actually played with the Brothers in 1981 when they opened up for the Stones. It was in Neville, in the Superdome.
Yeah.
The Neville Brothers, George Thorogood and the Destroyers, and the Rolling Stones. This is in 81.
Wow.
So I am I am the only person who has opened up for the Rolling Stones twice in the Superdome. And
That's cool.
how many years later? 81 and 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the kind
Still
of right.
kicking.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible.
But hey, you know what? So the cool thing about that night, Teal, when you play the a bunch of shows, you play you play 20 shows, right? And 10 of them are good shows, decent, pretty average. They have good points, and some points you wish you could do over, but they were pretty decent. And then you have 5 of them that could have been brilliant, but something happened in one song, some little snafu or some technical thing happened to cause it not to be this amazing show. So we're talking about 20 shows. 10 are average. 5 of them could have been exceptional, except something caused them not to be. 4 of them sucked, right? All right, 4 of them just were horrible. And there was the one that was just flawless. Everything went right, the stars lined up. But the thing is when is that show gonna happen?
Yeah.
It's rare that one happens when you really want it to happen. Like that big night at the one show, okay, I want this night to be the perfect night. And it hardly ever lines up like that. But for Dumpster Funk, that night in the Dome, at the home crowd, when we started playing the first song, when I started singing the first verse, I was like, holy crap, this is gonna crush.
You can feel
this
it.
is gonna be good. And we played the show, and we had the Soul Rebels come up and join us halfway through the set and finish the set with us. And we had the home crowd. And it wasn't like an opening crowd. It was a lot of people in there. So it just felt great. And then everything went without a hitch. I was like, oh, right on. That good show happened that one time I wanted it to happen.
Nice.
In the Superdome, opening up for the Stones. So
I'm sure they were watching it too, because they know.
Some of them. I know. What's it? Chuck Leavell was standing on the side of the stage in the back. And a couple of them were around, but yeah.
Yeah, dude. Even if it was on a TV screen.
Yeah.
I know we're hearing that, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Man, we got to get you to tell the story of, because one of the big themes of our show is mental health,
Okay.
Like you say, if we knew back then what we know now, obviously sobriety and all that stuff. You've been sober a really long time. How long has it been now?
23 years.
Wow.
It's been since 1998. Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah. 23 years that I'm sure glad that I had a big chunk of with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet
I'm
stuff.
happy to have spent time. I mean, I didn't know you back before. I don't really. Yeah, and I'm probably that's one cool thing that a lot of my acquaintances, a lot of my peers that I'm friends with and that I've gotten to know over the years, over these last 23 years, didn't really know me back when I was crazy as I don't know what, when I was doing the other stuff. And a funny thing was, being a musician, at some point, you think that it goes with it. They go hand in hand, and I thought that for a long time. I did. I thought that was kind of, I had a license to do that, to party, since I was a musician. Oh, I get to get high and get loaded and sleep all day and all of that kind of crap. And there were points when I knew that, okay, something ain't right with me. Something's not right within me, but I don't know. I couldn't, dial it in and figure out what it was until after a long time of lots of years of pretty much living in insanity. Because you find out that, okay, when you try the same thing over and over, expecting a different result,
Right.
that's insanity in one form. And like I had done stupid things over the years that I probably should have caught myself long before, but it wasn't meant. It wasn't meant to be, you know. And it happened when it did happen. And I had done like I've had. There was one thing. There's a story some people know about. I fell asleep. I crashed out at Giant Stadium in New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. The Stones were playing at Giant Stadium. And this was in 1995 on the Voodoo Lounge tour. And I had played on the Voodoo Lounge record. And I was in the midst. I had already gotten to a point where I knew something was wrong. And I knew that I needed to change some stuff, but I hadn't quite really reached it yet. And I went to New York, to Jersey, the Meadowlands, Giant Stadium, and I was going to maybe sit in. It was planned I was going to go sit in and play a song with the Stones that night.
Wow.
And I started getting high and shit, and I started drinking like a fish. And I passed out. I fell asleep in the dressing room. And I missed the whole show. I woke up and the show was over, you know. And the funny thing, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. We were talking about stuff, and this kind of, they were asking me some stuff about the Stones and blah, blah. And this story kind of came up. And it's the weirdest thing that, when that happened, I didn't stop then, you know what I'm saying? So it took me another few years to stop. So I stopped in 98. That happened in 95. So the tailspin, this downward spiral after that even, because I was so depressed having done that and having that opportunity slip through my fingers and blow an opportunity like that, and the guilt that goes along with that, and how you beat yourself up about something like that. That was torture in itself.
Yeah.
So it took another 3 or so years for me to finally say, all right. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like, okay, this time I'm going to really do this. Because I had gone to treatment center, rehab, drug rehab. I had been to 5 times.
Wow.
I had been to treatment 5 times prior to the last time I did it in 1998.
Wow.
Interesting. Did you have usually, especially for me, but I always ask different people, did you have a moment of grace somewhere that helped you turn it around?
For me, that last time, it wasn't conscious. It wasn't like it occurred to me that it was just another time. Here I am again, someone in trouble.
Yeah.
How am I going to get out of this one? And what do I do to get people off my back and to just leave me alone? And you know what? And something happened. And I remember being in this place. I was in Pasadena. The treatment center was in Pasadena. And I went there, and I had already been to places, and I knew the lingo. I had been to 12-step programs, to the meetings and all of that stuff. I had done all of that stuff, but I was never serious about it. I never really given the thought, admitted to my innermost self. And you know what, Ivan? You don't get to do that anymore. That part of your life, let's move on from that. I had never really thought like that. And then I said, you know what? I got an opportunity. I saw an opportunity that I just might be able to. And also I was inspired by other guys. There was a guy by the name of Mike Finnegan. You know who Mike Finnegan? Mike Finnegan, God rest his soul. He passed away last year, I believe. This past year, he died. But he was one of the first guys that I knew who was a musician who had gotten sober, and he had gotten sober like 30. He's been sober 30 some odd years when he just passed away last year. But he along with a guy named Steve Bruton, Mike Finnegan, Marty Grab, and Bonnie Raitt. They were a group of people that I knew and that I was acquainted with from the other side, that I had partied with them and I knew how crazy they could be. They had all gotten sober. And they were the first group of musicians that I knew that had gotten sober. So it was that stuff. And I'm like going through what I'm going through. I go to the treatment, I get through that, and I figure, okay, what am I going to do now? How am I going to do this? And I just prepared. I prepared like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try. What do I have to lose? I know what's going to happen if I get high and I do that other shit. I know what's going to happen with that. So why don't I just try it, something different? And that's as simple as it was. And then I started feeling like, okay, you know what? Something's going on and something's happening. And I've been believing a lie. I've been believing this lie that doing substances and all of that stuff made me more creative and made me better and more comfortable and all. I found out that I had been duped.
Yeah.
I had been duped. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad because I look back now, 23 years. Wow. You know?
Yeah, man.
I probably would. I mean, if I would have kept going the way I was going, more than likely, I probably would have died. And if I had lived many more years, I would have, who knows what would have become of me, you know?
Yeah.
So this whole, I was given a whole nother life, you know? And the music got really good. Like I started feeling nervous and stuff. Like, oh, I'm nervous to play. I'm like, man, that's a beautiful thing. That's something I want to feel, you know? I don't want to drink my way through that.
Right.
I would rather feel that.
Yeah.
And just moments like that started happening. And I'm like, oh, man, this is cool. And this just moments of being uncomfortable, just like human feeling, just like what I heard somebody say, the human condition. Sometimes you don't feel, you know, you're insecure, you're maybe unsure of yourself a little bit. And then you got the ego on top of that, the musician guy, and then you're trying to battle. It's a big fight with all of that stuff. You know, trying to figure that stuff out. And so how do I navigate through all of that? How do I maintain being this cool guy and be humble and still have the attitude and the confidence and to be that musician guy and still be a nice guy and still be, you know, comfortable in my own skin sometimes, you know? All of that stuff just started working its way out, you know? And it took me to work on myself, you know, to get to know myself and stuff like that.
You know, to loosely kind of quote a Stones song, I've heard this said quite a bit to me recently too, like when you're ready to do the work. Someone had said too, you don't always get what you want, but you'll always get what you need.
You know what? Yeah, that's right.
And and sometimes that's a hard, you know, when we're shrouded in either addiction or anxiety or stress or depression or whatever, and then you come out of it, it's almost like a part of you has been sleeping, waiting to like wake back up. And like that's that nervous kind of excitement guy. That's, man, thanks so much for sharing all of it. That's incredible. 23 years you're right. It's like a whole new lifetime.
Yeah.
It makes me realize I gotta be better about embracing the negative parts and even being grateful for them, like because like that's the whole reason I started drinking was nervousness, stage fright. You know, I'm super insecure, and you know they put the light on you, you know, and then people say you're good, and it's like, well, I was good that night. Now I gotta be like how I was on my best night. And then I've spent so many years drinking so that I wouldn't be nervous, and now that I'm like super nervous, and it didn't work really. If I still get nervous, but now that I'm not trying to like totally medicate it with booze, it's just torture. But and I never think to be like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm always like, this sucks, man.
This just sucks a little less than it did.
I understand because I know, and there's times when I find that the times like when I play like piano stuff and it's just like me playing this quiet stuff. When I do those kind of gigs, I'm super nervous.
That's when I would be the most.
I'm super nervous, but you know what? I really have to. My preparation has to be serious because if I'm totally prepared, if I'm super prepared, I'm usually going to be all right. And that nervousness is not as bad. But if I'm kind of like scared a little bit, like, oh, I'm going to play a certain thing, I'm not sure about that. And my preparation has to be on point. Yeah. And then the nervousness kind of works itself through. And once I start playing, I'm like, okay, I'm cool. And it's feeling good. I think it sounds nice. All right, let's get through it. But that's kind of how it processes itself, It
is a heightened state of awareness, you know?
Yeah.
So that part, like you say, if you're really prepared, now you just got that edge on it, this like super hyper awareness. And so that's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny because there's times when I'm around certain situations, and my insecurities. Sometimes I feel like, am I worthy of being in this situation? Do I deserve to be here with these people that I'm in awe of, and all this kind of stuff? And if I'm prepared, if my preparation is really good, and I do my homework and I'm ready to do it, I'm usually okay. And I'm less nervous.
I think it's great that we're even acknowledged. Like, so many people are so scared to even admit they're nervous, and it's just so important to be like, that's a part of it. And that's the best part of it. And I feel now, Ivan, I do stand-up comedy for a living. And it's, I think about that too, where there have been, if I'm not nervous, then something's wrong, like when I'm just going up there, going through the motions, then it's like, no, like that's not how I got here, Wow. And I think that's an extremely important thing to hang on to. And
that must be nerve-wracking. That quiet,
that's what Greg Allman said.
That quietness, when it's quiet in between stuff, right?
I'll tell you, it's so funny when it comes to stand-up comedy. And I think that the thing that I've said it before, probably on the podcast, but when you get to a maturity in stand-up comedy, and I don't think I'm there yet, but there are folks who I admire that can take a moment after a huge laugh to let the room settle back down, take a breath, like reset the room, and then start the next joke. And it's just like the fact that they have so much patience and, confidence in what they're going to say next, that they can let the room settle. Wow. And know that they can build it back up again and then let it go back down. And like the room can have a pulse, and that's, to me, that's like Zen comedy.
Wow.
Not there yet. I mean, but yeah, but there is that. And I'll tell you, my drinking thing was afterwards, like having a hard time, like the adrenaline coming off stage. Like, I'm not nervous about getting the needle. I'm worried about the preparation and the tourniquet and the alcohol wipe and the waiting in the waiting room. And that's the part that gets me. I get like so built up. Like, I anticipate a lot of anxiety and stress and all that. And then afterwards, the coming down part was always hard, so you're up on stage, you're having a good time, and the night's like, it's just getting started. The night's about for me, it's just going to start. Like, I'm getting off stage. Like, you got to hang out and laugh. Like, when's my night?
Yeah, right. I know that one too. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That adrenaline that oh my God.
You gotta force yourself.
The funny thing is trying to enhance. But what I realize about that that's the high. That's what that is. I'm high. That's what I'm high off of, the energy between me and playing and the people and what we just did. So now I had to learn to appreciate that. The afterglow of gigging. I had to learn to appreciate that. Like, okay, this is what I get. Now I'm,
Yeah.
So I can't.
This is my reward.
Yeah. I used to try to, how do I make that
good.
better? And how do I enhance that? And where do I go with that? So then I start doing coke. I start drinking. And I'm on a party, and then next thing you know, I'm up for 2 days and shit. And
in New Orleans,
Lord knows where I'll end up after that, Oh my
people can party on a whole other level in New Orleans. Like there's been people that moved to New Orleans, and I was scared for them. I was like, oh, they're gonna die.
Yeah,
I know one guy that moved to New Orleans. He did die.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh man, this town. You can't play around because you'll be like, "Oh man, you think you're a drunk?" It's not like he's a drunk.
Dude, there's a bar like two blocks from my house. That's like a laundromat. It's a bar. It's a laundromat. So you can go at 24. It's open 24 hours.
Yeah.
You go in there and get drunk and do your laundry. Play a video poker machine.
The place is amazing.
You can gamble, drink.
Yeah, you can go order a slice of pizza, do your laundry, and have a beer and play video poker at 3 a.m.
Get quarters for your dryer sheets on the walk back.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you, the first time I was in New Orleans, I was down there visiting a friend, and we went to a Saints Buccaneers game at the Superdome. But before that, where they're at the mall right next door to the Superdome, I'd never seen inside the mall. They had beer vendors like selling like tall boy cans of beer, and there was a mom with a carriage, and she got 2 tall boy cans and put them in her carriage and was just walking around the mall shopping, double fisting cans. And I'm like, this place is bananas, dude. It's just nuts.
So if you get out of hand, they're like, oh man, that's
easy.
The next level. That's some next level stuff.
But right though, can I say though about that with New Orleans is like in that same weird parallel, somewhere in that orbit, that's where somehow that beautiful art also lives in that space.
There's nothing like this place, man. I mean, the Mardi Gras just recently happened, and then this past weekend was this thing called Super Sunday, and it's where the Mardi Gras Indians, they come back out. They celebrate St. Joseph. St. Joseph's night is it's mostly a Catholic Italian holiday or something. It's not a holiday, but it's acknowledged. It's that night, St. Joseph's night, is a night where the Mardi Gras Indians come out in their costumes they were out in those same costumes a couple of weeks prior for Mardi Gras. And they come back out for St. Joseph's night. And then the following Sunday, they have a thing called Super Sunday. And there's a procession of these Mardi Gras Indians with their full-on feathers and the whole nine. And they parade in certain parts of the city. And there's people just waiting for things like that. Stuff like that's going to happen. And it's just something to do and go and see. But it's all like so cultural and it's so real.
Yeah.
So you combine that, and this is influential on the music. It's that stuff, the Indian, the rhythms and the sounds of the streets in New Orleans. It's amazing.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike, and today's show is sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, a Vermont hemp farm crafting affordable CBD products designed to help with stress and sleep without breaking the bank.
Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm located just outside of one of our favorite places, Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We had them on the podcast. In 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD.
And Sunset Lake CBD crafts products with hemp grown on their family farm. and ships them directly to the customer, cutting out all the cost associated with getting on the shelves at stores. They have CBD products for every occasion and offer tinctures, salves, edibles, coffee, smokables, and even for that anxious dog of yours, they have pet products.
Ooh, I need to get some for my dog that's barking all the time. But I'll tell you this, I use these. The Sour Bears.
So good.
They are CBD gummies. I literally, no joke, I take these every night. They help me sleep. And it's almost bedtime.
Yep. And I still, as said it before, I'll say it again. You go to a long show, you come home, my 42-year-old ankles are not what they used to be. And I rub that salve all over them and put them up, enjoy a nice cocktail, and just let it ooze right into those sore bones. And you know what, folks? All you Comes a Time fans, if you check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code TIME, T-I-M-E, you'll get 20% off all products. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code TIME, 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Thank you.
Get you some.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I wanted you to really take the audience into a little bit of a deeper dive in just that, because I remember Kofi told me he went and played some gig with you, and he said it was different kind of music, and he said Zydeco or something else, and I think maybe it was Cyril Neville. Somebody said to him, "No, this is Indian funk."
Okay, all right.
This is Indian funk, and I thought,
yeah,
you know, like I didn't really realize.
Wow.
And Kofi also told me, he said, "Man, Ivan knows a lot of tunes, man." He's like, "I hadn't heard these tunes before,
dude."
But
man, you know what? See now, you know what? See now that you got me. See on Kofi, man, dude. One night we were playing somewhere, and I don't remember what we were playing. It was something that was an extension of a song that became just some groove that we were playing.
Yeah.
And I was in it, you know, and then Kofi came up, and there was it had the organ and the clav, and there was a Nord, another keyboard right there. And Kofi came up, and Kofi, he used to kill me with this one. He had that pitch where he knew what key we were in, first of all. I'm like, okay, yeah, nice, yeah, really, thanks. All right, show off, you know. No, and he knew exactly what we were doing, and he would always play. Whatever he would play, I would think to myself, how did he hear that? How did he hear to play that? And I'm saying, wow. And it made me regroup on what I was playing a little bit more, and like, oh, nice. And so now, dude, that dude, man, that dude, I loved him for that. He was one of there was only one other person in my whole life that I knew that could do something like that, and this guy name was Gerald Chillman, and he had ears similar to that, where he would play something that I thought was necessary. Because you know how a lot of cats can play, a lot of stuff, and lots of notes and scales and all of this stuff. But some cats play something that you say that sounded necessary.
Yeah.
So whatever we were playing, he came and played something that not only fit, but it was needed there. And if he wouldn't have showed up here, we would have never heard that part.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know,
it's funny. My father-in-law was talking about that today. I'm at his house.
God.
I'm in his office, and he was talking about how Kofi played, and this is just comping behind everybody else on Midnight in Harlem on this song. And my dad said this exact same thing, and that I think was Kofi's Jedi power. I mean, he had a number of them, but what you said, like, what he would play behind someone else was so necessary, and it just elevated what the other person was doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of the audience realized it, but the people in the band, especially the person being elevated, they knew.
I definitely knew. I'm like right next to him. I'm like, oh my God. I felt like, I wish that I would be looking to the other guys on stage. I'm like, I wish they heard what I just heard. I wish they really understood what was going on over here. But no,
that was my whole life.
Yeah, bro. Oh man. So hey, but my Uncle Cyril, he really hipped me to a lot of stuff to do with the connection between. So the Mardi Gras Indians is a thing. It was there's a place called Congo Square. You've heard of Congo Square? It's actually at Louis Armstrong Park is where Congo Square is located. Now, supposedly this was sacred ground like a long time ago. This was where possibly some slaves and some Native Americans mingled. Yeah. Congo Square. So you got some African, maybe by way of Haiti or wherever, and some slaves, and you got some Native Americans that might have joined forces and hung out in this place called Congo Square. And this is what, from my understanding, this is where these rhythms, some of the rhythms, the New Orleans grooves comes from that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you got the Caribbean thing, you got this African thing, you got this Native American thing all combined to this, and then you couple that with New Orleans being a place of being like a port kind of town, and also a place where people met to exchange things. People would meet up in New Orleans and trade stuff. I'm gonna go hang out in New Orleans and make some money and go on my way, blah, blah. So it was the trading of ideas, the trading of cultures. So then you mix this all up with all of that and how mixed up we are, the people, like, cause I'm mixed with French, Native American, African, Italian, all kinds of stuff. So the signature food in New Orleans is gumbo.
As I'm gonna say, you are the
gumbo.
Your gumbo parmesan.
That's it. No, gumbo. No, yeah, right. Yeah. No, but the gumbo, when you talk about what do you put in your gumbo? Everything. I put everything in. I put seafood, sausages, chicken, all of it. And a bunch of seasonings and all of that stuff. And that's what New Orleans, that's what's special about this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my grandma's filet gumbo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what she called it. And
filet gumbo,
that particular gumbo, I guess because she made it. And that's the first one I had. They were from like Mississippi. Yeah. Like in the Gulfport, that area, and that was the first gumbo I had. And then, but actually when I went to New Orleans, I had some other kind of gumbo, and I was like, that's not the one I had,
Yeah.
And so I asked, and I was like, that's the one my grandma made,
Well, see, that's what I heard. I heard it called filet gumbo when I was a kid. Now I was later to find out that filet was a seasoning.
Yes.
It's made from sassafras.
Sassafras
is what filet. That's what filet is.
That's the flavor that I was looking for. I was like,
sassafras. And that's a seasoning that they put in the gumbo.
Yeah.
And they call it filet gumbo. And some people make, like, I'm going to make a chicken sausage gumbo, or I'm going to make a seafood gumbo.
Yeah.
And I found out this friend of ours, this lady, she's from like the Lafayette area, Lafayette, Louisiana, over there. Now they know how to cook over there, but they don't mix the seafood gumbo and the chicken sausage gumbo. It's either or.
Because I cut a record there and they made a bunch. I'm trying to remember.
When I make gumbo,
Yeah.
it has all of it in there. It has chicken, sausage, shrimp, crab meat. I put, because that's how my
Hell
mom
yeah,
and them
man.
made. My mom and them they put all of it together.
Girl daddy.
That's what I remember is filet gumbo. And that dude,
Yeah.
man, that's cool stuff.
Well, it's so interesting that you're talking about like that Port City thought is super important. I mean, in the way that it's coming, it's a sharing of ideas and a sharing of from all different areas. I heard something recently where Sam Shepard, the playwright, was talking about Shakespeare and how Shakespeare lived at outside of London far enough, but at the confluence of a couple different rivers coming in different directions near a port, and he would see all these interesting, amazing people from all different places coming and at this port, and there he goes and writes all these amazing plays, and all these different characters are in it and stuff. So he's able to draw from every different direction navigationally because he lived near this port area, and all of these folks coming from all different places. And it's so true when you think about the places that have that, like San Francisco again is like another place that's got like a really special, unique vibe. And you know, it is kind of wild to think about that like when people do, prior to cars and planes and all that, you know, like a boat would dock and it's kind of like, here we are, you know, and it's just like, and it's like, where do we fit in, you know? And it's really interesting to think about that, like how all of that just concoction happens because people put some planks out and said, dock here, let's set up camp, you know?
I can't wait really to get back there, man. I'm coming in that first weekend of Jazz Fest.
All right, I'm gonna see you somewhere.
Yeah,
I know you're doing an O'Teal and Friends night. I think at the Joy Theater or somewhere like that. And,
doing a couple of those and a couple of Voodoo Deads. And then
nice.
I wish I was going to be there that second weekend for the Earth, Wind, and Power.
Oh yeah,
thing,
and Nikki and them thing. Kofi
that was one of my.
Do that. Kofi would do that with him. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things that I did.
I'm never able to go to that. I'm never able to go to that because I'm always playing somewhere that when they do that thing.
You know, Kofi used Earth, Wind, and Fire and Stevie Wonder to teach me jazz harmony because I'm a drummer, so I know jazz for drums. But I didn't, you know, when I started playing bass, I didn't really know the harmony part. So, you know, everybody knew Stevie and Earth, Wind, and Fire. So playing those tunes with him, you know, and having all the pieces, all the horn parts, all the background vocals, you know, and double keyboards and just like, oh man, it was I'm so glad I got to do that with him. That's one of my favorite things that I did with him before he passed, man.
That's some
I
great
wish I was going to
music,
be there that second week for that, but
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
in
some
the
great
first
stuff.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I'm sure I'm going to be busy and I won't be able to make that one, but I love
New
that
Orleans
stuff,
cats, man. You guys do like 4
got a lot.
gigs
I
a
got a
day.
I got like
that's like a light
I got
day.
3 one time. One day I got 3, but it's not like 3 whole gigs. It's like I got a couple of songs I'm gonna go dip in with somebody for a few songs, and then go to the next thing. But
I love how George. I went. You know, I had never done. I always came in Jazz Fest and then got back out like with the Allman Brothers or something. I didn't really know like all the other stuff. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God. So I came back the next year after that. I really did it, man.
Oh yeah, you got
like 13 gigs, right? And then I was talking to George and I said, man, I know you guys because Russell Batiste, he was doing a ton. I said, how many gigs do you do this year? He goes, oh man, I got to cut back, man. I can't do it like I used to. I only did 14 this time. I was like, oh, Jesus.
Hey,
I was dead, dude.
Hey, George and Stanton. And one year we all had about 19 or 18, 19 gigs apiece. I think Stanton maybe had 22 or something like that. And it was like, oh my God. There was a couple of years where we were like that. And then I cut back, George cut back a little bit. I think Stanton cut back as well, but that's some funny stuff, man.
You got to be young. But George, he will George is made of, and New Orleans people in general, I feel, are made of something different, man.
You really are. Absolutely.
See the gigs that let out and the sun came up. It's like, that's some. And I saw, man, Russell Batiste, I swear, we got off, our tour ended at Jazz Fest. And Russell was partying hard back then, dude.
Oh, that was y'all was doing Vita Blue and stuff like that?
And so we had a gig. He got off the bus and was like, I got to go to a gig. And then I think he had an afternoon gig, or maybe because we had sound check. We had our gig. He had some gig that started like super late. Wow. So I think I took a nap and I got back up because I wanted to go see him just to see, because this is the end of a tour and he's been hitting that hard. I'm like, how's he going to be at 4 a.m? This is like the very end of the cigarette, you know? And I walk in and he sees me and he does this blistering, like, and then looks at me like, and I was like, oh my God, I took a nap and I'm dead. And he just was like it was not, I just like, what are you people made of in New Orleans?
Right.
What are you people made of?
It's nuts, man.
How old were you when you started gigging? Like, how old were you when you're like professionally first started going out and playing?
I was probably, to make for my music being my job, I was probably 18, 19 years old. Now, check this out. My first paying job, first one, was my dad. There were this group of folks, and they were called, I would later find out that they were called the Fabulous 14. There were 14 of them. That's the people that they opened this club called Tipitina's.
Hell yeah.
That had been formerly called the 501 Club. It was the address is 501 Napoleon. Mm-hmm. So there's this group that they used to throw parties in someone's basement, and my dad had a gig in the basement to perform for these people's party. And he brought myself and my great uncle, Big Chief Jolly from the Wild Chapatulas, George Landry, my grandmother's brother. My dad, it was my dad, Big Chief Jolly, and myself. And he said, y'all gonna come, we're gonna do this little thing, right? I didn't really know what to expect. So we get there, there's a piano, we got a conga drum, we got a tambourine, we got a cowbell. And that's our instruments. And so my daddy played a few songs by himself. I think maybe he let me play a couple by myself first. And then Jolly played a few by himself. And then my dad played a couple on the piano. And then we played all together. And I played on the conga drum. Jolly had the tambourine and my dad was on piano. And we played, these people were dancing like we were like some badass funk band. And it was a piano, a conga drum, and a tambourine. And we played for this house party. And he gave me $100 after the gig. That was my first paying job. And I'm assuming, I assume he made $600 for this gig. He took 3, he gave Jolly 2, and he gave me 1. Oh, man. That's what I figured. And that was the first paying job I did. And I was like, damn, $100. That was cool. I had fun playing. These people that were smoking weed and shit. Everybody's getting loaded. I'm like, oh, cool. So come to find out, these were the people that found the founders of Tipitina's.
Wow.
And
damn.
So that was a whole scene in New Orleans. So soon after that, the Neville brothers started playing as a group. And I started playing with them in like 1978, late 1978.
Wow.
And I started gigging. I'm like, oh, I was still living at home with my mom and dad at the time. But, you know, I was staying out all night and doing stuff. And I was 18, 19 years old. And I was getting this check every week with the brothers. And I was like, oh, this is cool. He's
like, oh, this music business thing is
not bad. Yeah, pretty cool family.
Yeah. I had no responsibilities. I was able to just go hang out, and I was still kind of living at the mom's crib, but I was out in the streets. It was a beautiful couple years there, man, with that.
Yeah.
That's really.
It sounds like
It was fun, man.
I love your nickname for yourself back then, Young Scrape.
Oh, Scrape. Oh, yeah, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
Young
What's the story
Scrape.
behind that? Or can you tell?
That's not, you know what? That was just some shoes. That was shoes. That was behind shoes. We used to wear these hush puppy shoes when I was in high school. Little hush puppies, you'd get the brush and brush them, and little suede, kind of velvety suede shoes. Hush puppies was what they were called.
Yeah.
But I used to see old men, and I found out later that this was a jailhouse thing, that guys would have these shoes, and when the shoes would get old, they would cut the backs of the shoe off and make them into slippers. And then they would take a razor blade and cut little designs in the shoe, like little hearts and like a little stars, and the shoe would be some fancy looking little slipper that used to be a shoe. So I got the idea to do this. I had a pair of hush puppies, and I was pretty hard on the shoes. I would scuff them up pretty fast. Like I'd have a brand new pair of shoes, and 3 days later, somebody said, "Did you just buy those shoes? They're all scuffed up." And then I'd say, "Oh yeah." And then next time they see them, I've cut the back of the shoe off, and now they're slippers. And somebody said something about those are some scrape back shoes, man. He's scraping up the shoes. That's how the name started. And then then this, you remember Houseman?
Yeah.
Houseman, we used to be at his house. By the way, that's how he got his name. I know there's many stories about that, but me and my buddies, we were all high school age. I was just graduating high school, senior year or something like that. And we would go to Therrell's house every day after school. We'd be sitting in his living room. His wife would come home from work and she would be ready to blow a gasket, because there we are, these little hooligan thugs, wannabe musician guys, sitting on her sofa. She's got to step over our feet to get to her back to her kitchen. And then she'd bring Therrell to the back of the house and fuss at him and stuff. And then he'd come back in the front by us, "Man, don't worry about nothing." So we started calling him Houseman, and he started calling me Scraper the piano raper. That was I swear to God. And the funny thing
there was a story behind it.
The funny thing was Therrell, he got to the point where he was one day we showed up at his house, and all of the furniture. Okay, I'm gonna back up. He had this record player. He had a record player and all these albums, and that was one of the main attractions to us being there. Was the albums, the record player, and we'd be in there smoking pot, right? And he would hip us to a lot of records that we maybe would not have known about. And Therrell would play us records. "Oh, check this out." So we'd be reading the album covers and stuff, sitting there smoking. And the man's wife comes home and looking at us, ready to kill him, ready to cuss us out and kill him. One day we showed up at his house, and all of the furniture was gone except the record player and the records. She had left him. She had left his ass, but left his records and the record player. Hence Houseman. So that's how we started calling him Houseman, because we were at his house all the time, and his old lady left his ass because we were there so much. I swear to God.
Legendary, dude. It's so perfect.
He's amazing.
I got
to meet him once at Toad's place. And he was the sweetest guy. So cool. The Wild Chapachulos, I love them so much. Yeah. They're like just meet the boys on the battlefront. Such great stuff, man.
You know what's special about that record? That record, well, it's an amazing thing, and I think Smithsonian or something. They put that record as a significant recording.
Nice.
To do with in Washington. They put it. You know how they archive certain music and certain records.
Yeah,
That's one. The Wild Child Patooties is one that's archived like that. But when they were making that record,
album, so.
when they were making that record, it was my great uncle Jolly, George Landry, Big Chief Jolly, the four Neville brothers, and the Meters were the band. It was the Meters, the brothers, and Big Chief Jolly. Alan Toussaint produced it. But you know what?
I mean, how do you?
No, no. But you know what? What I was thinking was, why isn't that a band? The brothers and the Meters. That was my dream. I was like, why aren't they a band?
Yeah,
and this was in like 1976, 76, 77 when they made that record. 76, I believe. And I was like, why are they not a band?
God,
yeah.
can you
The
imagine?
Neville brothers and the Meters together. And that's who made that record. The Wild
I
Child
love that.
Patooties.
I love
the
that
brothers
record.
and the Meters together.
Start to finish, that's like just.
Right.
I mean, if you need sunshine on a cloudy day, you put that on, and it's just. I mean, God, it's so good.
Well, that's like what you said about the gumbo. He said, I put everything in my gumbo. I put the Meters and the Neville brothers and Alan Toussaint and the Indians and, you know.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, my
He has
goodness.
a couple. Alan has a couple albums too that should be in the Smithsonian as input.
They
I mean,
probably
like just
are.
just Southern Nights and oh man, some of his. I mean, and it's just that there's some songs that. Remember OTL a while back we talked about like when you can actually like see a song when you're listening to it. I think we were talking to Donna Jean and we were talking about like Muscle Shoals and like when you can like actually almost kind of taste. Like you could feel the other side when you Alan has that vibe. Like to me, like listening to some of Alan's stuff, like really does. Like Southern Nights does it to me. Like, and you could just kind of, it's sun's going down, and you're kind of like, it really does. Like it captures the vibe. You could see the streetlights turning on. You could see nighttime in New Orleans beginning and stuff, and it's just God,
it's such a
beautiful
different thing, man. It's not. There's no place in the country like it. Whenever I run into someone that actually has not been there yet, I'm like, whatever your next trip is, cancel it, get refunds, and go to New Orleans.
Absolutely.
If you haven't been there before, like you must go before you die.
I miss it like
because
crazy.
you're gonna miss something that I can't even explain to you. Between the music, the food, just the way people talk in New Orleans. As soon as I get back and I hear people talking, I'm like, I could just I exhale a little, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. I can't wait to get back. So look, man, I don't want to keep you all night, and I kind of got to go. But I want to know about how did Dumpster Funk start? Because you have so much of your life that's like these different chapters. And then the sober chapter, this last part, this Dumpster Funk part. How did that all come about?
Well, Dumpster. Okay, first of all, so Tony Hall, right? So let me tell you about Tony and Nick. So there was rumors about this kid named Thibodeau Tony when I was a teenager. I used to hear about this little dude named Thibodeau Tony who can play bass and guitar, and he's George Porter's little cousin. That's when I first heard of him. He's not blood relative to George, but he was George took him under his wing.
Yeah.
And he was legendary to all of us coming up, wanting to be musicians. I'm talking about when I was like 15, 16, 17 years old. We knew of him as Thibodeau Tony. And we knew of him because he was respected by the Meters. Yeah. George, Leo, and Zig all liked Tony. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't know this, but at some point or another, he had subbed for Leo, George, and Zigaboo.
Wow.
At one point or another in the Meters.
Wow.
This is back in the day. Tony.
So he played drums too.
He was a drummer initially. Yes.
Amazing.
So he and I connected through that stuff.
Yeah.
And Nick was Nick's sister had a relationship with my Uncle Cyril when I was a kid, when I was like 10 years old or something. And that's how I met Nick. And Nick was singing with a singing group, like 5 guys, like the Temptations.
Yeah, his voice. Oh,
he
God,
was singing with a group of guys that were like the Temptations. And they were called Tabasco was the name of their group. I mean, initially, maybe the name of the group was the Soul Impressions, and they changed their name later to Tabasco. And Nick was this amazing singer, and he started playing bass. And in his early days of playing bass, he and I connected, and we became really close. So I'm going to fast forward to the year 2003. And I got an offer to play the jazz festival in 2003. And I was thinking, so what do I want to do this? What do I want to do? Do I want to just put a band together and go and be Ivan Neville and have some people back me up? Or maybe I might want to do more like a band. I want to do a band. So, and I was thinking of this whole concept. And I was thinking, well, who am I going to call? Maybe I'll get my little cousin Ian to come play guitar. I got Ian.
Yeah.
I got this guy, Raymond Weber, to play drums. And I'm like, well, who am I going to get on bass? Tony or Nick? And I'm like, I'll get both of them. I'm going to call
Gumbo.
both of them. Yeah.
We'll put
Gumbo
it
rule.
Both
Everything.
of them can sing. Both of them can sing.
Yeah.
Tony can play guitar a little bit too. So I'll get both of them. Then that was it. I'm like, and then what am I going to call it? And I had been toying with a song with my 2 younger brothers. And we had a song. I was trying to think of something funky. What's nasty, stinky? And I'm saying dumpster funk. And that just came to mind. Ooh, dumpster funk. That's some kind of funk. And that's what I called it. I called that first gig. It was called Ivan Neville's Dumpster Funk. And that was awesome. The birth of that group. And we played, I had a few songs that incorporated 2 basses. And we played those tunes. And I did a couple of obscure Sly Family Stone covers and a couple of Ivan tunes. And that was the first set that we played at the Jazz. And matter of fact, we had a few of the Dirty Dozen Brass Band with a horn section.
Nice.
It was wow. You know who else played? June played with us. The first gig, June Yamaguchi. June played with us. The first gig, I swear to God.
June, I've seen him so many times at the Leaf.
And it was O'Teal, it was a one-off. It was a one-off gig, and that was it. And then we decided to play another gig the following year. We did another gig the following year for Jazz Fest at the Howling Wolf. Yeah. And we played a gig there, and we did like a couple of occasional little sets like that. And then in 06, we played Bonnaroo.
Mm.
And it was like this 6 set, 2 a.m. We played on one of the tents with like 5,000-6,000 people out there.
Yeah.
And it was
that want to be there.
It was crushing, dude. It was that, and that was kind of, and you know what? And that was after Katrina. That's another thing that happened too, because when Katrina happened, we were all dispersed, and some of us happened to be together, and we kind of exiled, and we were kind of stuck together to some degree, and we ended up booking some shows based on not being able to go back to New Orleans.
Yeah,
what do you do? So we booked a few shows. Wow. I was at the time still playing with the Neville brothers part-time, as was Nick. Tony was playing at the time with Trey. He was playing with Trey.
That's right.
He was playing with Trey. He and Raymond both were playing with Trey.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we were doing Dumpster on the side. And that Bonnaroo gig really lit a fire up under us. And it was like, okay, man, this is bad. This should be a band. We should play. And this is in 06. and so by that time, by '07, we just went. I think we went on the Jam Cruise that following year, and that was it. We just said, let's just play together all the time, because it was just so fun. And we started developing some songs based on with the two bass thing, and then sometimes without, Tony on guitar, and then mostly became Tony, Nick, myself, Ian, and Raymond Weber.
Yeah.
And then we would
that's
sometimes
the band I
that
saw.
was it. And we would sometimes have like Skerrick or somebody as a wild card guest come and play with us, and things like that. And it just became its own thing.
When I heard about it, they were like, dude, this is band from New Orleans that has 2 funky bass players. I was like, and he said your name. I was like, I'm in. Where do I get some of this right now?
Right,
and it was just like, there's only a couple of bands out there where I feel like I need to leave because I'm going to take all my clothes off. As you guys and Soul Live, where it's just so I'm like, the clothes are coming off. I gotta get out of here, man. It's just, I'll be dancing and I'll open my eyes and there's like, a 9 square foot area around me because I guess I was gonna hit somebody. Just can't help it, man. Y'all just, oh man, you guys, too much.
And in perfect New Orleans fashion, that recipe, you're just throwing everything in there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for it, man. This has been so cool.
That's the first time I saw Ian too, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, he's funky, man. He's
just
funky.
the whole everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. Oh man, we're so glad to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Otio. Thanks for inviting me, man. Thank you.
Royalty in my eyes, man.
Oh no, as you are as well, man. No, absolutely, man. Now you too, man. I mean, you got that musical family thing. You know about that, man. You got when you and your blood can have done that thing over the years, and that's a special thing, man.
It is. I realize it more than ever now.
Oh my God! No,
I did before too, but it's a unique thing, that brother thing. You're lucky to have that, especially when your older brother has to be Kofi.
Dude,
I mean, I looked up, dude, as you know.
Man. Absolutely,
man. It's so. I'm so glad you chose life and sobriety and
know what I'm saying?
nervousness,
yeah, man,
and all the downs.
You know what? You get to hang out. You get to hang out, and you get to feel what life is, and. Yeah. Sometimes it's cool. Sometimes you have some little obstacles. Sometimes you feel you got a little down. But what I'm figuring out is how to mostly just find some gratitude, something to be grateful for, and to find some beauty in some little things. Yeah. There's some beauty somewhere. There's some beauty in all of it. And even in some of the darkest times, you might find some beauty somewhere in there, And I just try to do that and try to figure out how can I be of help? How can I be of help? And things seem to be all right,
Yeah.
With this medium here, man, it's great to be able to hear you be so vulnerable, and to all the listeners, and just thank you so much for all of it, man. Really, the music and the stories.
Thank you so much.
It's very important, and we really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I learned my lesson for the day. Throw it all in there.
Throw it all in there. Throw it all in there.
Why you gotta choose?
All right, yeah.
Well, stay away from COVID and stay healthy and keep playing for us. And we love you, man. Thank you.
Brother. Thank you.
Dude,
Thank you so much.
Be safe.
All right, brother. All right.
Peace.